The wonderful thing about art performance is that it hits you in a way that's maybe unique to you. Like we all see the same thing, we all experience it differently.
I am Jacquie Sochaki-Pittman, and I am the teaching associate for this course, writing about the performing arts. The writing that the students produced is inspired by the many interviews they conducted with the performing artists that the Wexner Center for the Arts hosted this past year through virtual performances, including dancer and choreographer Abbykoski, performer Jamil Kasako, composer and musician Sharon Udo, choreographer Faye Driscoll, musician Beverly Glenn Copeland, and local band Snarls, and many other artists.
Hello, I'm Karen Eliot. I think the richness of these individual experiences with what they're seeing and hearing and living inside of, like, how does this live with you? How does it sit with you when you leave and weeks later when you're reflecting on it? What's the weightiness of that? What moved you? What inspired you? What angered you or provoked you? I think those things, I found it really rich in the students' writing because they were direct and honest responses that also can be shared with another person who then gets a sense that's a little deeper.
Yeah, I'm Sara Wagonmaker. I'm a third-year student in the dance department with a minor in arts entrepreneurship. In something like dance, it's all about the body. It always comes back to that. So when you remove the three-dimensionality of that and the presence of that, you do lose a lot. But limitation opens up possibility. And when the body is no longer there, there's more space to play with and to investigate what other things can come in to inform that and to support that. I would have to say Abandoned Playground, the work by Abbykoski and the New Utility, it was one of the first works that the WEX presented this year. And you could really tell that they were still learning how to work with Zoom and streaming and presenting work in this new digital space. And it was also very noticeable that Abandoned Playground relied on this sense of physicality and really being there with the performers. And that was definitely lost online, but was also very intriguing to see what that lack of physicality can mean in this new digital space.
My name is Isabel Brandt. I'm a dance major and I'm a third year. I spent most of fall semester researching and interviewing and watching the work of Jamil. It really resonated with me. That really made me think about my own creative process as like an aspiring dancer and artist, and just it made me think a lot about how there's really no need to look around and look really far away for inspiration when you can really just dig deep into like yourself and kind of discover it there.
Howdy. My name is Jackson Burkholder. I am a second year majoring in mathematics and economics with a minor in psychology. And so now the dynamic of the artwork had shifted to I related to the artist and the performer more than the audience, because the audience didn't exist. And that was perhaps the most interesting thing I noticed switching between pre-COVID and post-COVID is before COVID is me and the audience got together to watch a show. And then after the show, me and the audience would talk about the show, and even if we didn't talk about it, we'd all collectively experience and feel it. During COVID, I experience and feel it alone, except not really. I experience and feel it with the performer as they perform the show themselves.
My name is Manal Vakil. I am a statistics and political science double major, and I'm a sophomore. So Sharon Udo in her artist talk basically did what I did, which is like talk to her friends about like race relations in America and basically how they viewed themselves as like white people in America. And I thought like it would be interesting to interview my own friends and do the same thing, because like what she was really encouraging everybody to do was like think about their role and think about how their like skin color affects their experiences. And as someone that's surrounded by a lot of brown people as well, I was interested to see like how our experiences might be different. I think like Sharon's whole goal with her artist talk was to get people to talk about things like this. And I basically tried to apply that to my own life in my writing. And when we got together and got to talk about it, we basically did the same thing, which is like create an environment in which we can talk about these sorts of things in like a casual but also like important and like formal, significant way.
Hi, my name is Ilana Ryder, and I worked at the Wexner Center from 2016 to 2021 as the manager of public and university programs. I think I'm looking back on it now, there's a page on the Wexner Center site that has 12 incredible articles, all generated during this pandemic year. And it's kind of unbelievable to see how we were able, with the support of Lane, Ashley Stanton, and Adam Eliot in performing arts, to connect students with artists all over the country and beyond, and to conduct interviews and write responses to their many virtual performances and engagements this past year.
And in addition to that, multiple creative responses and additional writing responses from students. We have this massive collection of work that the students did even during a really, really difficult time.
This whole project wouldn't have been possible without, of course, Karen's initiation, her vision to see something happen that didn't exist before. I mean, I fundamentally think that this project sets the bar for the Wexner and OSU's student engagement. I think the project exists because we all have such different interests and strengths, and I'm just so blown away by how the students let artists and the works this last year like fall into their lives and be part of their lives.
Hi, my name is Sara Bedoni and I am a fourth-year dance major.
So you wrote in your article talking about Faye Driscoll, there is grit and provocative, unapologetic nature that exudes from Faye's work. It mimics the truth in life that we are often too scared to touch. And I'm curious, what in your life this past year maybe has been parts of your life you were too scared to touch that you now have invested into because of COVID?
My initial reaction is a wow moment, an emotional moment. It's really powerful to hear my words spoken back to me. And I think in that embodied response says a lot. And it's the moment of recognizing what's happening inside of me, happening with myself, realizing that it's important to notice external things, but it's also really important and essential to notice the things happening internally. And I think the moments that I've recognized a lot of that writing is the moments where I knew to be still, to pause, to listen, to be with myself, and just sit and like hope to find the answers in that, or not, but just to pause and quiet some of those external voices.
Hi, I'm Komanitsky. I'm third year. I'm a dance major, but I also have minors in environmental science and in business.
Ask you, how does the idea of interdependency show up in your life and work?
I feel like it's everywhere. It's something that Sara and I actually talked about a lot, like following that interview, because we're also both very like nature-loving people, and so we've had a lot of conversations about the ways that we are interdependent on the environment and this like in a way, interdependency is like a natural law that exists with our relationship to nature, but because it's a natural law, it also exists in our society and in every interaction that we're gonna have. It's like gravity, it's like any of those kinds of things. I mean, what we talked about with Faye Driscoll's work was a lot of critical examination of how institutions and artists are interdependent on each other. So that's something I've been thinking about.
My name is Ashley Bemke. I'm a second-year psychology major. So Glenn Copeland talked a lot about his Buddhism practice and just his general outlook on life. And one of the things he really emphasized was how we influence our environment instead of the other way around. So he told us that positive thinking is really important, finding light in the darkness is important, and I kind of went off of that and tried to use what was in my environment to create art instead of relying on being in an environment or a situation that's already naturally really beautiful. And also just bringing in that light through the process of light painting to create light in the dark room.
My name is Mackenzie Deegan. I am a microbiology major and I'm in my 4th and final year. The night of the performance, I was feeling really burnt out. I was assigned to his team, and I sat down and he started talking about this idea of the universal broadcasting system. And it's basically the way that the earth and the world and some higher power is speaking to us at all times, even when we can't really understand what it's saying to us or maybe understand that it's saying anything at all. And as I'm sitting there and he's talking about, making sure you're surrounded by people that bring the light out inside of you, I'm sitting there at 21 thinking, oh my gosh, am I living a life which allows me to feel the light inside me? Am I around people that bring the light out of me? And I had to sit with that for a really, really long time. In fact, it took me 2 months to just process that and then start writing.
Yeah, my name's Julia Romey. My majors are sociology and public leadership management and policy. And I have minors in French and music, and I'm a 4th year. I feel like the biggest nugget that I've gotten out of this year was probably a combination of something Karen said, which was just saying how much we affirm the arts and validate the arts by paying attention to it and by writing about it and by engaging with it. That has been a great lesson, I think, from this group that I've learned, is that you sort of need the second person. You need the audience and the listener to engage with it. And you need sometimes a critic, and it really validates the existence of the art that needs to be heard. And then the other nugget just is from Glenn, from Glenn's interview, because I had asked him, in the experience of COVID and quarantine, like, what brings you joy anymore? Because he seems such a joyful person. And he just said life itself is the joy. And just keeping that in my mind over the past 2 months since I heard it has been, I don't know if that should have been such a revelation for me, but it was very enlightening, because since then I've just been like, wow, how lucky am I to be alive and just experiencing things, even if it's quarantined and distanced.
My name is Abbykoski, and I am a 4th year at Ohio State, where I study dance and video arts. I think you kind of said this, but we don't usually take enough time after something to think about it. We go see a performance and we leave, and maybe we think about it that night or something, but we don't really think about the artist and what were they trying to get across and why did they do this and why was their shirt this color. There's so many little things that do mean something if you take the time to think about it. And I think I just learned how important it is to actually take that time. And if you don't understand something at first, or sometimes art can feel unapproachable, or you watch it and you're like, I don't get it, I just want to whatever, I just want to leave. I didn't like it, I don't get it. Not that, I liked everything I saw, but sometimes
But you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to. Sometimes you don't get something and you're not relating to it, but if you can step back and try to look at it from the artist's perspective or just a different perspective than your own, you will learn a lot, even if it's not your favorite thing or something you immediately, connected with.
Which is a metaphor for life.
Yeah.
That is
Mic drop. We're good.
I guess.
I agree with that. Yeah. I wrote down what you said. We all see the same thing, but experience it differently. I think that that's really, really important to remember.
I think writing is also, for on the personal level, it's a way for charting your own sort of growth.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I'm so grateful because you are the reason that all these students had these opportunities to.
Well, I'm just thrilled about it. I mean, I think they're really special people. Really they're really special people. They're amazing people, and they have amazing insights, none of which I would have ever thought of on my own, and I think the work of like trying to translate those feelings into language is just invaluable. It's so important to exercise our brains that way, to be able to say what it is that we are experiencing.
Yes. Well, this was amazing, Karen. Thank you so